How many of you guys have had bad reviews or actually unfair bad reviews? And it happens all the time. Customers just don't care. They literally just write anything sometimes just to piss you off. And you know what? It actually affects your livelihood. And I really, really hate it whenever I get a bad review by a customer. Obviously, I try my best not to, but if it does happen, sometimes you do everything you can to help the customer out, and yet it still doesn't work out. And that really makes my blood boil. But guys, if you love videos like this, please hit the like, subscribe, smash the notification bell to get more of my videos in your feed, mate. In your feed, man. Check it out. Look at this. I'm on Reddit right now and I'm just reading a message from one of the sellers that said, "What can I do about this unfair bad review? I sold these jeans and put exact measurements like all of them, including waist, hips, rise, length, hem, inseam, and thigh. They were marketed as baggy. The waist was 36-inch for God's sake, and I even noted how tall and what size the model was. The buyer then left this review. I am almost positive. I am almost positive Etsy won't take it down. This is my fourth review and second star for something out of my control. Is very upsetting. Is there anything I can do? What do you suggest? I'm very, 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 very upset, mate. And you know what? I don't blame you. Look at this. These pants were way oversized. What's wrong with you? They told you the sizes. Can't you read, man? Can't you read? This pisses me off. This really pisses me off, right? I can't stand it when customers do this for no real reason, just because they couldn't read something properly, man. It pisses me off. Look at this. As a seller, this is a response from a seller. As a seller, I wouldn't respond. Punch a pillow, scream if needed. Before I read about the unfair review, the first thing I saw were the 2 stars complaining it was too big and the word baggy in the title. This person is an idiot, and future customers will see that. No need to rub it in. I'm more hesitant to respond because I see low ratings pinned on some stores. I wouldn't risk it, and SE won't remove it. Yeah, you know what? I kind of agree with that. Don't respond. I mean, however much um, you want to, don't respond. I mean, there are ways that you can respond that can um, kind of, make you put you in the best light, you know. But sometimes it's just better to leave things alone. I don't know. What's your opinion, guys? If you're watching this video, tell me. Drop me a comment below. What would you do? Um, in the past I've left it, because if you start, if you reply to it and then like this seller says, it's possible that certain low ratings are pinned on some stores, and then that's just a headache because people just see the 2 stars, and that's not fair, even though overall it's not. um some other seller says, I feel the same. I once had a similar 2 star review from an item where all the measurements were listed, but it didn't affect my sales much. As a buyer, if I saw that review, I wouldn't think twice about it. Yeah, look, it does happen. Sometimes as sellers, we kind of, it's upsetting. It really is. And it's terrible. I know. But it doesn't affect you as much as you think. And if you've just got one or two, like from, I don't know, hundreds of fantastic reviews, then I wouldn't worry too much, honestly. So honestly, don't think too much. Look, here's another one. Look, truthfully, I look at negative reviews. Look, we all look at reviews. Says, truthfully, I look at negative views, but when I buy a product first to see what people say, so I can judge if the negative reviews matter, because people are usually dumb. I just want to know if the customer is dumb or the seller is bad. You want to know if the buyer is dumb or not? Yeah, I mean, look, that is a dumb question. I'm not gonna lie. When you look at it, they're saying it's oversized. So anyone with a bit of gray matter or common sense will know that that seller was dumb. Sorry, that buyer was dumb. Yeah, the buyer was completely stupid. So it shouldn't matter. The seller was absolutely in the right. They've explained everything. They gave measurements. They did everything correctly. So you know, it's going to be clear as day to other customers that the seller did all the right things. But goes on to say, if the pants if the pants were oversized, I check a measurement guide style and assume the customer didn't measure themselves properly, especially if there are lots of 5 stars. And that's the other thing. If you got lots of 5 stars, I wouldn't worry too much if you just got the odd one or two, 1 or 2 stars. Don't worry, because the majority wins anyway, and the bigger majority win, the huge majority wins. If there are lots of 5 stars, meaning most people found that as intended or better, that's fine. A lot of bad reviews can be excluded because of the customer human error or unreasonable expectations. In my opinion, my friends do the same. I hope this makes you feel better. Yeah, it's just annoying though. Full disclaimer: I don't have an Etsy store. I'm just an Etsy customer. If I saw, wait, what does it say? Full disclaimer: I don't have an Etsy store. I'm just an Etsy customer. If I saw this review, it wouldn't prevent me from buying from you. If there was zero bad reviews, I'd be suspicious. Yeah, you know what? That's a fair comment, and that's a comment from a customer, so that's good. But it just shows that having the odd 1 or 2 bad reviews doesn't won't affect you really. It's unfortunate, it just wouldn't. And there's always a silly customer that's going to do that, but obviously there are ways to obviously try and help yourself as much as possible. Here's a response from a seller. Do you put the measurements in listing photos or just in the description? How are you listing the size in Etsy's size dropdown? I ask because Etsy hides a description by default, special mobile. So all important information needs to be in listing photos. I fully agree with this. And this is what I keep saying. Answer a lot of your FAQs in the listing images. I say this all the time. So if you're a newbie, you're a seller, and you think there are questions that you could answer and you're doing it in the product description, do it in the listing photos too. I personally like to do it in as many places as possible. I try and answer all the possible FAQs that customers may have, and really dumb it down, dumb it down so that even the silliest or the most whatever of customers that really doesn't focus can see what you're saying and answering those questions. So great response this one is. um the buyer might also be referring to not liking the style and not having anything to do with the measurements. Yeah. So I can tell you as a vintage buyer that review would be irrelevant to me. People often don't know their own size. It's so true. People sometimes buy stuff and they don't even know what size they are. Imagine that. That's the level that's the thing that we're dealing with. You can reach out to the buyer and very nicely and politely offer to take a return. That being said, I would not do this because they almost certainly won't wind up changing their review. However, that is the only thing you could possibly do. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point too. Um, and the seller that did this said, "That's a good question. No, I don't put the measurements in the photos, but now I'm going to edit all of my listings to have that. Would you recommend I do it on the photo of the pants or in a text graphic? Thank you. I have already reached out and offered them in return, but I doubt they'll answer." Okay, so they did reached out and offered a return anyway. Should I respond publicly too? I'm hesitant because I don't want the review to show up first in the review area. Yeah, I'll be hesitant to kind of reply, to be honest, too. Just let it kind of hopefully stay low, stay down, not visible. Um, yeah, but you know what? See, this is what I'm saying to you. This is what I'm saying. For me, my advice is always this: be as clear as possible for the product that you sell. Show your product in exactly what they are going to get. So, whatever photos you have of your product, this is exactly what they're going to get. If you have something like measurement sizes or other bits of information, then you need to be very clear on exactly what the sizes are that they're gonna get. Have it in different places. Actually show it in the product description. Have it into listing photos. 100%. Um, Another seller responding saying, "Stop worrying about reviews like these. Any reasonable buyer would either laugh or at this or ask for the measurements. If you posted this measurement in the description, put it also in the photos. Absolutely, add a photo from Microsoft Paint of the measurements helps. Easy, simple, very simple." The seller that put this post up says, was responding to a message, says, "Right, you're so funny. I offer full refunds and returns. I honestly would have refunded her and let her keep them if it meant not getting a 2-star review." You know what? I 100% agree with that. I always do that. I always offer full refunds myself if just to hopefully just to stop getting any negative reviews. Obviously do as much as you can to stop getting the negative reviews, because ultimately, um it would be better not to have any negativity for sure. Goes on to say, "I know how annoying it is to pay postage and return things, so I would have given her the option. What's sad is those pants were so dope and they deserved a loving home." I'm glad she kind of she saw the bright side. I mean, look, someone actually says, "Look, always respond to negative reviews. It looks odd when I see a negative review and notice the seller didn't even bother to explain." Well, do you know what? I mean, some sellers on here who watching this might agree, some disagree, because like I said, you don't want your negative review, to be highlighted, and unfortunately the best way to do that is if you don't respond, right? It gives you a better chance of it not being highlighted or shown, or up there, if you like. So that's my personal opinion. Some people, but you could respond and you could say, "I did offer, or I did do this, or I did, we do have, in a nice professional way, you could say, we do clearly have the sizes on the product description. Unfortunately, you may not have seen this." Something polite, something nice. But like I said, I probably would opt not to respond. I mean, look, here's a 1% commentator. Seller says, "Yeah, I disagree with this one. Yeah, me too. Etsy pushes reply to reviews to the top. Exactly. I have seen shops with bad reviews at the top from as far back as 2019 within this last month because they replied." It's so true. And this is my issue. If you don't reply, you're most likely not going to be it's not going to be shown clearly up there, which is better for you. I think if a customer is telling a flagrant lie and you need to correct them, maybe, but otherwise, for the average bad reviews where it's clear the customer was just unhappy and was going to continue to be unhappy, nah, this one is obvious enough that the baggy pants were actually baggy in person. Doesn't warrant a response, and that's a really good point, because it all depends on the type of review you get. If it's something that's just a blatant lie, then yeah, it may merit responding to. If it's something like this where, clearly the customer made a big mistake and it's obvious to anybody that reads it, then it's probably best to leave it there. It won't be seen, probably be hidden and underneath all the other good reviews. So maybe best not to respond to this one. But guys, tell me if you've had a negative review and whether you believe it was unfair. I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, any advice that you have also, that you believe is important for this. And if you do love videos like this, please hit the like, subscribe, smash the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one, mate. Take care. Take care.